students? What is the discussion? You can see very well. What is the discussion?
Mixers.
Yes, different types of mixers we have called as, in particular we have two types, that is, one is a batch mixer and a pan mixer, sorry, continuous mixer. Batch mixers, you have two types divided, and continuous mixers, it has got its own advantages and disadvantages. So moving with that, I don't think so you have any doubt with this. If not, if you have, please raise that, I'll solve it. If not, we'll continue. And the next is equipment used for production of stabilized blocks. Stabilized blocks. What do you mean by stabilized, students? Stabilized. Stabilized. What do you understand by stabilized? Anybody? Anybody in the class? What do you understand by the stabilization? Yes? What do you understand by the stabilization, students? Simple word. What do you understand? Stabilization. Stabilization is nothing but you are improving the properties. You are improving the properties. Improving the properties of what? Of soil. Of soil. In what ways? Improving the properties in what ways? What are the different properties you find of a soil? Yes, what are the different properties of a soil you find? The water content, then plastic limit, liquid limit, then shrinkage limit, all that you will be improving the properties of a soil is called as nothing but stabilization. It's called as a stabilization. It's a chemical property. It's a chemical property. You're making the chemical reaction to take place with the stabilizer and the soil. What is the stabilizer you'll be using for stabilization? Either it can be a cement or a lime. You'll be using cement or a lime. The cement and soil or lime mixed along with soil will improve the soil property, Therefore, it's possible to get a good value of plastic limit, liquid limit and shrinkage limit. And therefore, the water content of the soil will be reduced because it is getting stabilized. So we have to understand what is this type of instrument and how it is being used. So before going with the equipments, let me picture this is an very old type of image. What I got is Sinvaram block press. Is the first block press what we got invented then. Block press. It's a block press. This is a type of a block press what we can see. It is having too many accessories, as it is named as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O. A is the cover. You can see the cover, the lid, upper saddle, mold. You find the different parts of the Sinva Ram block, that is cover, upper saddle, mold box. You can see this is a mold box. Entire thing, this is C is a mold box. Then baseboard where it is D. A, B, C, D, where you find the baseboard. Can you show me baseboard? D, where it has been labeled? Students? It is here. Then E and F are the upper adjusting bolts. You find something bolts which has to be fixed. You find E and F are the adjusting upper bolts. G and H are the lower adjusting bolts. I and L are guide blades. I and L are guide blades. Blades, they are the blades here. I can see here. So I and J are the guide blades here. These are the guide blades. Then you can find piston as a K. K is a piston. This is a lever arm. K. Not this is not the one. Piston. K, yes, you can see the piston here. It's a vertical line, sorry, horizontal line, which will be taking up the moments. Which will be taking up the moments. Then you can find lower rollers. L is a roller, and M is a lever latch. M, you can see, find M where it is exactly. Yes, you can find this has to be M. M is a lever latch, and N is the handle. N is the handle, right? So you find number of parts like this, which is used for the production of the block making using Sinvaram. Now students, I can show you some more images of Sinvaram, which has been improved now. It is not as before, it has been improved, and you find versatile in the operation or the production of the blocks. It will may take some time, let it take. So before that, we'll move on to the detailed part of the equipments. Although soil has been used as a building material for a long time, yes. See students, soil block construction is a structural construction. Please keep that in mind. It's a structural construction. It takes up loads. It takes up loads. It is because today you can see the concrete in few decades back, but the soil has been used for construction for long time, number of decades. It's crossing even concrete. Variable climatic conditions have prevented large adoption of the material. Yes, because of some variations in the climates, you find this is more being accepted readily as available. So the production of acceptable quality stabilized soil blocks requires that the soil mix with a compacted in order to reduce the air voids within the material and thus improve the strength of the block. That is what you have to stabilize, use the stabilize. Therefore, the properties of the soil will be improved. Stabilization will allow the properties. Stabilized mud blocks machines. Some images I'll pick up. Yes, students, you can see here. You find different fabricators, they produce differently, very differently. You can see here it's a electric operated machine. You can just manpower is quite very minimum, and this is one exactly what we have seen just before. Something like this, you find the upper lid and the lever arm here, lower lid, and you can see the rollers, bolts, and etc. Then you find the jack provided at the bonnet. You find different types. It varies depending upon the facilitator who manufactures this type of stabilized mud blocks machines. You find machines like this also, students. You find something like, you find a filler, you will be filling this material. It is electric operated. Then you have this filler moving to the block, and it is getting self compacted with the electric operation. So such different various types of machines are available in the market. So you can decide depending upon the condition, whatever it is required. Okay. Now, in Sinvaram block press consists of a mould box in which slightly moist soil is compressed by hand operated toggle lever and piston. This machine has a tare weight of about 60 kg and employs a maximum capacity of about 2 meganewton per meter square. That means you can compact a soil. This compaction, when you're filling up with this is the soil, stabilized soil, you have to press the lid. To press the lid, when it is pressing, the lid is being pressed, it is getting compacted. It is getting compacted. To what density it is getting compacted? Density. To what density? Every machine is being designed, okay, or designed to a value of 2 mn per meter square, or you can generally say it as 1.95 Newton per mm square. It varies. Some machines only take up the density value of up to 1.85. You have to check. You have to check before you purchase what is the value of density it can gain. Okay. Because when you are compacting the soil, students, it has to reach a maximum compressive strength value, maximum density value, right? Maximum density value has to be attained by the machine. Then only your blocks will be having good strength, and your blocks may have a good strength, otherwise it is not possible to achieve. So it could thus be classified as a portable tool. Do it yourself. So sometimes earlier, long time back, it was called as do it yourself. You can purchase at home and keep it. It hardly costs you some 50,000, students. It will you can make number of bricks out of it. Out of it you can make number of bricks. You can construct small houses, walls and farm buildings. So such farm buildings we can see in our management has taken up this type of construction in their farmhouses. Also small houses and all that you can see here. This can be used, and LED it can be used as a load bearing wall source. Students, load bearing wall. If I increase the thickness, it can act very well. The all steel machine produces, means the machine which is made up of a very good steel produces 290 by 140 by 90. This is a machine what we have in the laboratory, in the VGST laboratory. VGST, Vision Group of Science and Technology. This machine has been extensively used in developing countries for the production of stabilized blocks. The points are worth bearing in mind regarding the use of machine. The initial cost or amount of soil put into the small box should be closely controlled, and the press will not have a long life. It is mishandled on a building site. That means what? When you're compacting, students, when you're compacting the, I think something is, yeah, when you're compacting the soil or when you're pouring the soil, you have to measure the soil. You have to measure the quantity of the soil, whatever you have to load into the box, this container. You cannot exceed that value. That is what it is telling. The initial amount of soil put into the mold box should be closely controlled. Closely controlled means it has to be measured according to the design. And somebody, the person who is pressing this, if it is not electric operated, it is man operated, then the person who is pressing, he should be carefully handling. If it is lost, if he is not able to do it properly accordingly, it is not possible to have a long life of such machine. Okay, so this is a brief discussion of the stabilized block instrument. Okay, now the important, the main, the very wide topic, and extensively being used for every construction. Extensively used for every construction is a precast element. Precast element. Okay, it's a precast element. Is that clear with you? Stabilized block construction and the machine, students. Is that clear with you all? Is that clear with you all, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now we started the module 1 with the mixer, type of mixers, right? And the second discussion was on the stabilized mud block or Sinvaram press block machine. And now it is precast elements. It's a precast elements. Do you have an idea, students, how the precast elements are being cast? If I say it's a rectangular element, it is very easy to cast. correct? With having a thickness of 25 mm to 30 mm, you can get a mold and cast at the casting yard. Casting yard. Yeah. Am I correct? At a casting yard, you can do it. But do I think, or do you think every time it's only the rectangular element is in requisition? No, not at all. It varies for different conditions, different construction. It varies. The shape changes. It can be V shape or a curve shape, or it can be a triangular shape. Any shape you may require for the construction. Now, therefore, you require a mold for it. You require a mold for it, and the different methods of construction for the production of precast elements. But very commonly, we have seen myself or you would have seen this sorry, this rectangular block of construction. But now we'll study more about it. Rectangular, you can study more about the different types of precast elements. This is a chart depicting the precast element casting procedure. Now, at first, how to start? As you do it in your laboratory, students, maybe you wouldn't have come across with the concrete lab. First, the mold whatever you are taken has to be cleaned and oiled. Why it has to be cleaned? It has to avoid contamination. You have to avoid the contamination of the mix, right? So it has to be cleaned and oiled. It has to be cleaned and oiled. Then mold setting, you have to assemble the mold. Mold has to be assembled precisely according to the dimensions. Precisely according to the dimension. Mold setting means you have to set according to the dimensions. Okay, students, you have to set it according to the dimensions. And reinforcement, it is a precast, correct? It is a precast reinforced concrete. It is a reinforced concrete. So once the reinforcement has to be induced, the reinforcement has to be induced, otherwise it is not possible to attain. It is not a PCC, it is a RCC. It is an RCC element. Okay, now precast reinforcement is required to place. So you have something like let me say some V section. You can think of something like this. Now you are designed accordingly. You have to place the reinforcement bars. You have to place the reinforcement bars. So you'll be placing here. You have to do it. This may stretch for a longer length. This mold will stretch for a longer length. Okay, this reinforcement has to be placed using the spaces. Fixing of amendments, then you have to fix it. The amendments means you have to fix with the reinforcement with the molds. It has to be precisely located and with the effective cover defined. Either it can be a 25 mm or 20 mm or 30 mm, and maximum it can go to 55 mm also because of the corrosion. So after you check for everything, then you go for concrete casting. You have to pour the concrete. Then finishing of the element. After pouring the concrete, after 24 hours students, you will be dismantling the mold. You'll be removing the mold. Then you start with the curing of the element. Curing of the element takes place. Then the step can be either here, stripping of the mold can take place here, or even after this. Okay, why we avoid the stripping of the mold after concrete casting of 24 hours? Just to avoid the mold don't get corroded and the mold can be reused. Then after that you can go for a transportation. This is a complete procedure as we do for a concreting also, as we do it for a concreting. But only what is the difference is, in concreting we have a defined shape, beam, column, whatever it is. In precast we have different mold shapes. So that is the entire procedure of the production of the precast elements. Okay, now I'll not go with this. I'll not go in detail, students, with all this. First precast element is lintels, lintel, precast lintels. It is a precast lintels. Lintels, where do you find, students? Lintels. Where do you come across the lintels? Lintels. Where do you find lintels?
Above the window and doors.
Above the windows.
Yes. Or the openings of doors and windows, you find the lintels. What is the purpose of lintels, students? What is the purpose? What does lintel do? What the lintel will do? What is the function of lintels? What's the function of lintel?
Will reduce the loads on doors and windows.
Yes, it will reduce the dose of loads on the doors and windows. Then, correct, you are correct. If you find the opening here above the door, fine, this is a door, the lintel will be placed here, correct? And whatever the load above the lintel will be taken by the lintel itself. You find the walls coming up on the lintel, correct? The load will be taken up by the lintels. Therefore, it is reducing the load, or the entire load which is coming above the lintel will be taken up by the lintel itself. So, I need not cast in situ. I need not cast this type of lintels. I can precast them and use them readily. Okay, next you find reinforced cement concrete channels. You find channels. These are the channels. You can see this is a sketch of a channel. This type of channel is very much used in canal irrigation purpose. In canal irrigation purpose, you can see such type of channels being used. Okay, I can go a little down. I'll start with this third precast reinforced cement concrete channel roofing. A roofing, channel roofing is being used. This is also a third type. And the fourth type you find reinforced concrete, cement concrete plank, a plank made up of only the precast reinforced cement plank, only a concrete. So first one you found it as a lintel, second one you found it as a what, channels, then third one you found it as a channel roofing, fourth one you found it as a concrete plank, then fifth one is precast ferro cement channels. So precast in the form of ferro cement channels also available. Then sixth one, ferro cement channel roof is also available. Then seventh one is precast Manglo tiles. So such type of precast elements are also available with us. Then we find precast reinforced cement concrete joist. You understand joist, students? Yes or no? Joist? Joist? Tell me. There's the sections similar to your I sections, T sections and all that. You find the joist. Steel sections, you find steel sections, right? Similar to the steel sections, you find precast reinforced concrete joist also. It can be in I section, or it can be in T section, or it can be a C section, right? So joist can be made available. So totally 8 different types of precast elements are available with us to study. Even more it is possible to get and construct. So let us start from the 8th one, precast reinforced cement concrete. Can you tell me, explain what is precast cement concrete, students? People are entering too late to the class, huh? For the production of precast reinforced cement concrete joist, refer to the section on precast reinforced concrete planks and joints. Joints are placed between walls or beams, and steel ties are to be provided to arrest lateral movements of the joist. A sliding type of mold is placed between the two joints. arch with wire cut bricks in 1:6 cement mortar is constructed immediately. Immediate demolding of the newly constructed arch is done by sliding the mold to the position where the next arch is to be constructed. Okay, now can you tell me this time? This time will tell you complete details. Joists are placed between the walls or beams, and steel ties are to be provided to arrest lateral joist of the movement of the joist. Yes, where do you come across this type of construction? Where, at which point, which section of the building I'm talking about? They are placed between walls or beams, and steel ties are to be provided to arrest lateral movement of the joints. Tell me, students, where do you come across? Where's the section where I'm talking about? Joints are placed between walls or beams, and steel ties are to be provided. Where do you come across? Yes?
Columns, ma'am.
Columns? Where exactly column you're talking about? If columns are being placed at regular interval, where do you find this? Concrete joist, or only joist, you tell me, only the joist.
Beam to column and roof to column.
Beams to columns and rows to? Repeat? Yeah, correct, tell me. Tell me, students. Yes? See, there's a between the walls, we can tell it as a wall intersection, right? Two walls has to be interconnected. Like you find two walls coming, meeting at a point, right? They are meeting at a point, intersecting at a point. When they are intersecting, I should make up the condition of the joint between the walls. Therefore, to make up the joint, I have to introduce some amount, joints has to be introduced in the wall construction only. I'll tell you more clearly with, see, you can think of a wall construction. I'll show one course of wall construction, students, here in the top view, correct? And you find one more wall construction in the perpendicular direction. Okay, now when I'm constructing itself the wall, right, I have to introduce the joist. I have to introduce the joist. It is connecting the walls. That is what it is telling. They are connecting, are provided to arrest the lateral wall, not lateral movements. It will arrest the lateral movements. It will not allow to slide. It will arrest the lateral movements. So at connections between the walls, I can go for the provision of the joist. It can be, see, actually in market we can see most of us purchasing steel joists. Steel joist. Or steel joist, it can be I section or T section or whatever. It is a small anchoring, like anchors, you provide an anchor form. Let it be an anchor form. Similarly, you find for the beams also, when two beams are interconnecting, like you find a T beam. T beam, have you designed, students? Have you designed T beam? Yes? Yes or no? T beam. Yes. When you go for a precast construction of T beam, you find two beams are interconnecting. So at the point of connection, you provide these joists. These joists are made up of precast reinforced cement concrete. But it is not that easily the cross section can be defined of a joist because it's a slender section. You agree? As you find a steel section, you find a similar, the reinforced cement concrete joist has to be also very slender in appearance. So, a sliding type of mold is placed between the two joists. So, for example, if you are constructing an arch, think of an arch. You're constructing an arch with wire cut brick, You remember arch construction, students? Doom construction, you remember? Right? Similarly, the mason will start constructing in a shape. He'll have a mold like this. He'll have a mold and he'll start placing the bricks one next to the other. With a 1:6 cement mortar is constructed immediately. Demolding of the new constructed arch done by sliding the mold of the position where the next arch is to be constructed. So what it is telling is, if you are when you are starting with the construction of an arch, the arch length or thickness of the arch can be of 0.5 or 0.2 meter or whatever it is. Similarly, you should have a mold for it. Something like jack arch roof. This jack arch roof on which I'll be constructing the arch will be a formwork for the construction of the arch. Once the construction is over, students, I'll be moving for the next construction of the arch. When I'm moving it, right, all the bricks will be intact. But I have to give a connection between the former arch construction and the latter construction by the joist. So joist can be playing a key role in providing the connections between the two elements, right? That is what being told here. The arch, while constructing an arch, it will sliding to the next mold, you have to connect by joist. Okay. For the section reference, refer to the section on the precast, reinforced concrete and the planks and the joist. So in the planks and joist, we will be defining about the section. What should be the section of it, whether it is of what plank dimension, what is the thickness, what is the height, and all that. We'll be defining the precast reinforced concrete planks. In the planks, we'll be defining the section. So it's like something like you have a connector, steel connectors. Do you get the idea of steel connectors? You will be connecting two elements together. So where you will be placing that steel connectors? Within the elements. Similarly, the precast reinforced cement concrete joist also plays the same role, but only thing the material is different. It is applicable in connecting two walls or two beams, right, to avoid the lateral movement. Even in the construction of arch construction, when you are using a jack arch roof, so that the movable mold is being used for the construction of arch, and to connect the prior arch and the rear arch, you have to connect with the joist. That is the application of precast reinforced cement concrete joist. Is that clear to you, students? Is this clear to you? Yes? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So it's like you have in steel sections, you have something like very slender I section. This itself very slender. They'll act as a connector, or you can tell it as an anchors. You tell it as an anchors. For example, in my one connections, you saw my one construction formwork, how the anchors were used to connect between the two elements is the similar role played by the precast reinforced cement concrete joist. Okay. Now moving further, I'll be talking about the sections in the our later part about the sections of this joist will be discussed in the plank section. Now coming to the next, precast Mangalore tiles. This you would have very much commonly seen. Am I correct, students? You would have seen many places at your own place, at your own village. This is very commonly being used. Now how to cast this? How to produce this? Prepare wooden or steel shuttering, right? So it depends upon the durability and the cost effective. Wooden or a steel is having a good durability, whereas a wood deteriorates with a long time usage. Apply waste oil or a grease oil, right? Waste oil or a grease oil on the surface for ease de-shuttering. Place the reinforcement with clear cover of 15 mm from the surface of the shuttering. So you can think of a Mangalore tile. Mangalore tile is you can define it may not be crossing even 40 mm or 50 mm, right? So you'll be placing with 15 mm surface of the shuttering. Prepare the mix according to the design 1:2:4, right? Coarse sand, COARSE, coarse sand and 20 mm down. Chips has to be used, 20 mm down. Add water at the rate of 25 liters per bag of cement, okay? That is the design part. Do the mixing thoroughly so that you get a homogeneous and ready to use. Place pairs of Mangalore tiles molds and pour concrete in the horizontal space between the tiles as well as on the top. Overall thickness should be 100 mm. Use hand or machine compacting method. So you can just compact it. Mild compaction is required because it on vibration the concrete will be spread throughout. So overall thickness of the slab should be 100 mm. Fine, that is fine. Curing the slanting surface by placing jute bags which will hold the waste for some time. Water curing should be done at least 5 times a day and should be continued for 10 to 14 days depending upon the span. So you need not put it in a container of water. You have to burlap curing. You have to adopt burlap curing. A burlap curing in the way you will be on the material elements which has to be cured. You have to take a gunny bag, soak it in water, just spread that gunny bag over the element, so it will give a small moist environment, okay? You should not put it in water, and this should continue for at least every day 5 times a day and should continue curing for 10 to 14 days. Actually we say 25 28 days is much, but to start with the construction you can go with the 14 days, but advisable is always 28 days. 28 days of curing is advisable. So in case of precast Mangalore tiles, you will have a Mangalore tiles molds been available which has to be greased, and then you have to provide the reinforcement designed for 1:2:4. Then the reinforcement has to be placed in the molds at a 15 mm effective cover, and the thickness, overall thickness should not exceed 100 mm, right? Of the, it's similar like your precast rectangular plank. And then you have to define the coarse aggregates should not be greater than 20 mm, right? And it should be homogeneous, and you have to spread uniformly the concrete into the mold. And after 24 hours you have to do burlap curing or just spread a jute bag over the element, and after 28 days preferably you can start using for construction. This is a very good time because when you are using reinforcement, definitely students you find a good strength being achieved, right? Is this clear to you students? So we started with precast joist, then we started with Mangalore tiles, right? Is that clear students? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Fine, I'll stop recording. Yeah.